It's a pleasure to welcome Roni Raffeld Bluth to the Anshe Emet family tonight. Over the years, Roni has served as a company commander in the IDF, a gymnastics coach, a strategy coach, headed an internship program as a coordinator at Hebrew University, served as an intelligence analyst for the Israeli government. She has served as a business development manager, a technical project manager, and is a wife to Pitzi and a mother to, I believe, four children.
Right.
Not long after October 7th, you also became the wife of an injured soldier. And this is
Correct.
where your story and your family story takes a sudden turn, like so many families of injured soldiers. And you chose to write and record a new story with your remarkable example of enlisting when Pitzi was well enough and only leaving your post to have a baby, and then the creation of two podcasts, Alumot Krav and 646 War Story. You have just done remarkable things. So, Roni, we want to welcome you to the Anshe Emet family.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Before we talk about your podcast and the impact that it's having, let's talk a little bit more about your personal experience. On October 7th, Pitzi went north, and you have written that you were relieved by that. Can you say more?
It sounds maybe even funny when you say when I was relieved, but if we take back 2.5 years ago, October 7th, I remember all of us that the fear was came from the south, from Gaza, from all the cities that are very, very far away from us, and obviously from the north. And when PT came back and told me that he was called up and he's going up north, um, I felt as if I received a huge gift. Um, and that's also how I told my daughter, my oldest, Noam, when she came back. I told PT when he left, I told him, you have to go and say bye to Noam before you leave to Miluim, and say goodbye, because she was staying at her friends. And when Noam came back, like very, very emotional, very, very scared, she said, Abba, Daddy is going to die at war. And I remember taking a map and showing her, Noam, this is this is Gaza. The war is there. It's down south. We live here, central Israel. And Abba is going up north. He's even safer than us. And he was safe for 2 days.
And then he was grievously injured. He was shot in the
Correct.
face, I believe.
Right. On October 9th, 2023, at approximately 3 o'clock afternoon, there was a encounter, you can say, maybe a firefight. Three Hezbollah terrorists invaded Israel. You can only imagine what they were planning to do. And PT is a commander in an elite unit, and him with his soldiers arrived first to the scene. Three soldiers were killed at this incident, and Pizzi and the other soldiers were trying to stop the terrorists from doing whatever they were planning to do. While doing that, I always say I knew I married Gibor Israel, we say, the hero, the Israeli hero. But after this story, I can share that. I can share this. PT was shot in the face, literally underneath his nose. The bullet entered, crashed his upper jaw, and was stuck miraculously at the first vertebra. And that's where our story as a wounded family, I say, began.
And amazingly, he survived. and
Right.
he was able to be rehabilitated. And he came home, and and this is sort of a shock to me and probably most of the people listening, you re-enlisted. You decided you were going to go and serve during the war. You
Right.
didn't simply stay home. What went into that decision?
So during this past year, I also returned to serve as an operation officer in the Tzanchanim, the paratroopers brigade. Um, there was something very profound in that reality. On one hand, I was the wife of a wounded soldier, holding a home and that had been shaken, obviously. And on the other hand, I was putting on uniform and going back into the system that had changed our lives. At that point, I realized something very simple. In our home, there will always be someone in Miluim, someone serving. Um, these are not separate worlds. I don't see that
Mhm.
this way. It's a continuous reality. And I had the privilege of doing that. And I served almost a year as an operation officer, as I said. But they told me bye because I was 8 months pregnant. And we were about to go to the Syrian border, and it wasn't for me. And at that point, I had almost 2 months, a month and a half until the due date. And I decided that my mission is to amplify the voices of the wives of the wounded since October 7th.
Hmm. It is a remarkably inspiring story, and we're going to be listening and seeing the Zoom video on Yom HaZikaron. And like our brothers and sisters in Israel, we've chosen to commemorate Yom HaZikaron by remembering the more than 26,000 fallen soldiers and police officers who gave their lives for the safety and security of the state of Israel, like the men in Pitzi's unit, who died, Al Kiddush
Yeah,
Hashem, but they also died um, keeping the state of Israel safe. And
exactly.
we know that this is a sacred day on the Israeli calendar, on the Jewish calendar. It's Yizkor for a nation. And on Yom HaZikaron, families go and visit the graves of brothers, sisters, sons, daughters, fathers, mothers. But this year, we at Anshe Emet, we're including all those who have been injured as well as their families in this Yom HaZikaron. We are remembering them. So there's, according to the IDF, we're acknowledging 6,000 soldiers who have been wounded since October 7th, and the more than 20,000 soldiers that the Ministry of Defense says who are in psychological rehab, or the
Mhm.
more than 10,000 soldiers who are receiving psychological counseling. And through my work with Natal, which also I'm so happy is a supporter of your work, Roni, I'm well aware of the overwhelming need to treat the PTSD that is so prevalent in Israel.
Mhm.
So proud that Natal stands with you in your work. But we should also note that the rate of suicide has been growing at an alarming rate in Israel. And so this work is so very powerful. So why did you create this podcast, Alumot Krav? And please explain the name as well.
Of course. So during PT's rehabilitation, I understood that something was missing. There was no language for what we were living, no space where women like me could tell the story from inside the experience. And then I realized if the space doesn't exist, I need to create it. I need to change it. So Alumot Krav is a documentary podcast where I sit with wives of the wounded since October 7th. Not only soldiers, I must say. The name itself, Alumot Krav, carries a double meaning in Hebrew. It echoes halum krav. It's the term of for combat trauma, but also points to alumot. Almot is young women, and something hidden or silenced. It reflects the essence of this project, women who are living the impact of war, often quietly and often unseen. I always say these are not interviews. These are conversations between women who share the same, maybe the same reality. We speak chronologically from the moment of the injury to the hospital to rehabilitation to what life looks like now. Um, and I must say that there's something very powerful that happens during this process. When a story is told in sequence, it begins to be recognized, maybe, and you can recognize the experience. It's not therapy, but it's deeply, it has a very deep feeling of therapy during while doing it. I maybe something personal to share. I remember people asking me during the month and a half until I gave birth, Roni, you don't want to do something for yourself? Go have a massage. I don't know. Why are you sitting with women with very complicated stories? And I remember telling them, for me, it was very powerful, very inspiring also to sit with women. It's not only dark, it's not only sad. There are a lot of moments of light. And by the way, our youngest daughter, um, her name is Ol, which means light. Um, and this project began as a one-woman show, but I had the privilege that one day I received a phone call from you, and you said you saw the podcast and you want to take part of it, and also Natal. That's how Natal became a partner in this journey, and this journey allows this project to keep growing. And I'm very, very privileged and very honored and I feel blessed having this partnership.
Thank you. It's been my honor. You wrote in a different place, behind every injury, there's another story of a family, of a wife, a partner, of a woman left behind to fight another type of war. And after watching some of the videos, you have the sense that these are also heroes in their own right, that the
Right.
women are equally heroic along with their husbands. So, as of now, how many people have you interviewed?
So I just finished my, I think, number 12 today. I recorded an episode with the 12th woman. I had the privilege of sitting with her in a conversation. I must say that we need to speak also about the daughter series, but I assume that we'll speak about it
We're coming.
later.
Yeah, yeah.
I can also say that the echo and the I receive a lot of phone calls, a lot of text messages from people that heard, listened, watched, and the change that they made by understanding maybe even more what it means to be a wounded family and to understand it's not that the battle doesn't end um, in the battlefield, it only begins back home.
Yeah. Why? Yeah, after watching some of the videos, some of these are really personal, and not all the marriages stand the test of time. Some of the marriages end. Why do you think people come on the show? What do you think is happening for them?
Great question. I can tell you I was a very private person before I did before I created Alumot Krav. Also Pizzi, if you go on the Instagram page, you won't see his face. He's very, very um, he likes to be, that's also because of his name, obviously. He's a private person. And I think that when a woman comes and shares a story, I think she understands, first of all, it helps her to process everything that happened, but also to understand she is sort of an echo, maybe a microphone that helps other women like her in the same situation that they're not alone. Um, and it's amazing. We turn on the camera, the microphone is working, but in a glimpse of a second, you don't feel it. It's just a conversation between two women that shares maybe the same story.
Let's watch a video now of you talking a woman by the name of Z. And she tells a remarkable story. And we'll watch the tape and come right back.
Get into the elevator, and then the doctor says, Tov, he's going to surgery now. He has internal bleeding. Wow. It's really emergency, and we're going to do everything that we can. And then they were like, hey, you're going to wait here, and we're going to take him in. Like, say your last words before he goes into surgery. And then I remember he said, like, you're going to be such a good mom.
So, Roni, this is very powerful just to watch the short video of a woman talking about these harrowing moments on an elevator. Her husband's about to go to surgery. It's not clear that he's going to live or die. And she is offered an opportunity to say what could be her last words to her husband. I can't imagine the stress of that moment. What is it like for you to watch that and be part of that conversation?
I think what stayed and still stays with me in Z's story is the way life and fear exist side by side. The beginning of motherhood, alongside the moment everything changes. This is the reality of so many families, holding both at once, the continuing and continuing forward. When you see and watch Z while she's speaking, she speaks with a big smile.
Yes.
And it's amazing. By the way, she's not the only one when while talking, and I think it was profound the way these women. By the way, we were talking about how during the month and a half before I gave birth, and this is maybe the explanation why I gained so much from them, the inspiration and the power and strength and resilience are amazing. So I think all of these give me the strength to continue in doing whatever I'm doing.
And we shouldn't forget that her husband looks at her and says, "You're going to be an amazing mother." And he's talking to her with the understanding that he might not be there
Mm-hmm.
to raise his own children, but she's going to do it. I think that captures so much of the spirit of the country.
Well, if we're talking about Z's episode, her story, this episode, I have to say and share, will be released during the week of Yom HaZikaron. And what makes it very special is that this episode is recorded in English to allow these voices to reach communities beyond Israel. And I'm so happy to share this because sometimes it's very hard to share stories, an Israeli story in a language which is not Hebrew. And she did an amazing job offering us a glimpse of her story, and not only in Hebrew but also in English.
I hope you'll share it with us so that we can share this with the congregation as well.
Of course.
And your daughter, she sort of got into the whole act. And how did that happen?
Great question. Well, I didn't plan to create a series, a daughter series, but the idea came from my daughter, actually, from Noam. She's 10 years old. After meeting Noam during school, they had a conversation. A wounded soldier came and shared his story, and she asked him, "Who told your wife that you were injured?" Later, he called me and he said, "No one has ever asked me this question." That question revealed something profound. Just as wives need a voice, so do children. And that's how the Daughter series was born. It's not therapy, again, I would say, but as children speaking to children from within this reality, amazing. really amazing. I'm so proud of her. I just try to realize to maybe to understand these two young women talking about how everything changed and how they see it from their point of view.
Well, why don't we watch a little bit of that interview and then we'll come back and talk about it.
אני זוכרת שברגע המצוי שאני פגשתי את אבא שלי, היה לי נורא מפחיד. אותו הדבר היה לו מחובר מלא צינורות, צווארון, כיסא גלגלים. המפגש היה קשה, כי כל הזמן היה לא לחוץ, ותמיד שהיה לו שירותים אז הוא היה עושה בבקבוק, כי הוא לא היה יכול ללכת לשירותים. והיה לו ממש קשה, ותמיד היינו מסתירים אותו, ואני לא אהבתי שהוא הולך עם הדברים, כי אחרי זה תמיד שואלים אותי מלא שאלות, מה קרה לאבא שלך, למה הוא עם מקל וזה.
One of the things that's so powerful about this interview is, I think that the fact that Noam understands what these other kids are going through, and that opens up the possibility to really talk about this, that it's not therapy. They're telling stories, and in the sharing of stories, they're strengthening each other. And I wonder what you think of that idea.
Exactly that. What we just watched, it's not only a child maybe telling a story, but it's also a child making sense of a new reality. Yuval speaks simply, but within the simplicity, there's so much complexity, fear, adaptation, even moments of embarrassment. Just remember, like, try to remember how she smiled when she talks about her father needing to go to the bathroom.
Yes.
And alongside all of that, you hear something else, how children find ways to hold each other. And how a mother holds the entire home together. I also invite you to go and watch the episode. You can also turn on the subtitles.
Closed caption, yes.
Yes.
It's remarkably powerful to watch these children. And there's also that moment when they talk about hiding from their fathers.
Correct.
And so, your heart skips a beat and your eyes fill up with tears, but it's such a candid, open, honest response. First of all, on the one hand, you can't hide what's happening from your children. Parents want to protect their children, but you see in this podcast how much they see. They see everything and they're processing everything. But talk about this idea that they're trying of hiding from a father.
Well, it's a great question, and I had a lot of questions. I remember the first thing when they told me, PT's brothers came to tell me that he was injured. The next thing I needed to do is to tell and to share the news with the children. Noam was 8 years old. David was 4.5, and Itai was only 2. And you have like 5 minutes to understand how to do that, and you never really prepared for something like this. And I remember telling myself, the way that I will handle this situation is the same path, the same road that my children will decide to walk on. And I remember telling them to sit on the sofa. They were sitting on the sofa, and I just told them exactly what happened. I didn't leave anything behind. I told them that Abba is a gibor, he's a hero. And while trying to protect us, he was shot by very bad people, explaining exactly what happened to him, that the bullet entered, and explaining what exactly they're about to see, because I wanted them to come and visit him. And I think by deciding the narrative of the story, that's the way that our children will share the story with others. And when Yom HaZikaron is about to come, I'm so proud of them, because they're saying a lot of things. They're saying that my father is a miluimnik. He's going to miluim, but he was also injured. But also my mother, our mother, is in miluim. So it's to show the strength in this story, not only the difficult and hard parts of it.
Just to make sure everyone understands, Miluim is the army service that you continue to
Exactly.
participate in. And right now, you are also in Miluim, even though you're still nursing and all of that. A young new baby, you are continuing to serve, right?
Correct.
And what are you doing in the IDF?
And the same position, the same role as I did before, an operation officer, which means that and maybe in a sentence, just making sure that all the soldiers come back home safely.
Thank you for that and what you do and how you do it. Um, what impact do you think Alumot Krav has had? I'm sure you've had a lot of response to it. What do you think the impact has been, and what surprised you about that?
I once received a phone call from this woman. I'll share two stories. And this woman, she said, I have two friends, really close friends, that their husbands were injured. And until now, I had no idea how to deal with it, how to manage, how to handle even a small conversation with them, because I didn't even know what to ask. And something in this podcast gave me the tools maybe to understand maybe a bit of what it means. And the other story is just happened 2 days ago at the shift when we switched the shift, and the other operation officer just arrived, and he said, Roni, do you have a few minutes? I just want to tell you something. And I said, okay. And this is about, let's start a man, okay? Because when you think about this podcast, you obviously think that 99% of the listeners are women, but there is a 1%, even more, of men that are listeners. And he said, when I came back, when he was a combat soldier at the beginning of the war, and he told me one of the when I drove back home from Gaza, I decided to put on the podcast, and there was one episode with Shira that her husband Meir is injured. He has an emotional injury, PTSD, and he told me this was the part when I understood that I have something that is wrong in my soul. I stopped the car, and he says, I never cry. And I was crying for 15 minutes, and I let everything go. And I remember, like, we were sitting this room in the army, and I felt a bit embarrassed for him. But he said, "Don't be embarrassed. The opposite. I felt so much strength, and he gave me the words to maybe explain a bit what is happening to me. So maybe these two stories can maybe give you an understanding of what it is for me to do and for others.
It's part of the healing process that is so
Exactly.
necessary and so needed. Last question.
Sure.
We are in a very challenging time, very difficult time, not knowing what's going to happen from day to day with Iran, and still trying to make sense of the war that began on October 7th.
Mm-hmm.
You and your fellow Israelis have endured so very much. You're talking to people in a congregation in Chicago, Jews who care deeply about the state of Israel. What's your message to us on this Yom HaZikaron?
I have to share that my husband, Pizzi, maybe we should have started with this. His father was a shaliach, aliyah, of the Sukhnut in Chicago. So Chicago has a very special place in our hearts.
Mm.
That's first of all, I had to say that. My message may be, first of all, we really feel the support and the big hug, even though we're not close. But even doing this, talking about this, it's a lot. War doesn't end when the shooting stops. It continues in homes and relationships and children who are trying to understand this new reality. If we want to truly understand the cost of war, we have to listen not only to the battlefield, but also what happens after the soldier comes back home. Because this is where a different kind of battle begins. So this is my message, maybe, on Yom HaZikaron.
It's a beautiful message and a powerful one. And I want to say that when we think about the difficulty of transitioning between Yom HaZikaron and Yom HaAtzmaut, the spirit that you bring, Roni, the inspiration of your work and your example really help us celebrate the Ruach and the true spirit of Israel. Roni, this conversation has really been an honor for me and for our community to be with you. And with your permission, I'd like to end this conversation with a prayer on this Yom HaZikaron, a prayer for healing for all those who have been injured in these grievous wars and these challenging times, and to reach to the Kadosh Baruch Hu for healing at this very difficult juncture. So if you'll rise with us, we'll offer a prayer. Misha Berach Avotenu Avraham Yitzchak V'Yakov, Sarivcha Rachel V'Leah, Hu Yivarech V'Yirapeh, Et HaChayalim HaPtsuyim V'Mishpachtam. HaKadosh Baruch Hu Yimalei Rachamim Aleihem, Lachzikam, Rapotam, V'Yishalach Lehem Merafua Shlema, Mina Shamayim, Refuata Nefesh, Refuata Guf, B'toch Shar Chol Yisrael, V'yichazek et Yedei HaOskim B'Sarchehem, Hashtabel Bizman Karim V'Nomar Amen. May God, who blessed our ancestors, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, Sarah, Rebecca, Rachel, and Leah, bless and heal all of the injured soldiers of the IDF. Strengthen their families. Strengthen all of those who are involved in the holy work of healing, their doctors, nurses, physical therapists, psychologists, and their families. May the Holy One protect and sustain them, granting them physical, psychological, and spiritual well-being, together with all who are ill. And let us say, Amen. Toda Rabah.